All right, detectives, grab your coffee. The wait's over. Let's crack these mysteries wide open.
An old man's speaker broke one evening. Frustrated, he tossed it into the backyard well, expecting it to sink quietly. The next morning, it was gone. Weeks later, during a heated argument with his best friend, the friend stumbled and fell into the well. The man ran to check, only to find the well empty. No body, no sound, nothing. Time passed and tensions rose with his coworker. In a fit of anger, he stabbed him 5 times and threw him into the same well. Yet again, by morning, the body was gone. The pattern repeated with a neighbor after a disagreement. Eventually, even his sick, elderly mother became part of the well's mystery. He threw her in, expecting the usual disappearance, but the next day, she remained. Confused and fearful, he couldn't comprehend why only she stayed behind. What do you think really happened to all the missing bodies?
The truth was never about the well at all. It was about his mother. Every time someone disappeared, she was the one quietly hauling away the bodies at night, making sure nothing was ever found. But when he finally threw her in, there was no one left to cover his tracks. That's why, for the first time, a body remained. The mystery wasn't supernatural, it was Mom all along. Talk about family baggage, huh? This guy didn't just cut the cord, he cut the cover-up. Let's go and proceed to the next story. It's all about Daniel's mysterious disappearance.
A routine morning jog turned deadly, and 2 people in Daniel's life had secrets that could make him disappear. It was just after sunrise when Daniel, a 42-year-old accountant, left home for his daily run. His wife said he was upbeat, joking about finally beating his personal record. At 7:15 a.m., a neighbor spotted him jogging down Maple Street, but strangely, he wasn't wearing his smartwatch, something he never ran without. By 8:15, his wife received a text from Daniel's phone. "I'll be home late, meeting a client." Daniel never met clients, so this immediately seemed suspicious. Later, police found Daniel's car parked neatly behind a closed hardware store. Inside were his running shoes and his smartwatch, paused just 18 minutes into his run. Investigators quickly focused on 2 people in Daniel's life. His wife, who had recently discovered large withdrawals from their joint account. She'd confronted Daniel angrily, giving her a motive for revenge. His coworker Brian, who had been covering up accounting errors that could cost him his job. Daniel had learned about the mistakes the day before and threatened to report him. Clues were subtle but telling. Daniel's missing smartwatch during the neighbor's sighting suggested he had stopped running early. The client meeting text appeared intended to mislead. Parking his car behind a store with no cameras delayed discovery of his disappearance. 2 suspects, 2 motives, but only one made Daniel disappear. Who do you think it was?
Most people guessed Daniel's wife, but the real culprit was Brian, his coworker. Brian tricked Daniel into a fake meeting, then used his phone to send the client text. He stashed Daniel's car behind a hardware store where there were no cameras and ditched the smartwatch to throw off investigators. Every clue, the paused run, the suspicious text, the hidden car, was Brian's way of buying time before Daniel exposed his accounting fraud. Talk about cooking the books. This guy cooked up a whole kidnapping cover story. Let's go and proceed to the next story. It's all about Mark and that noisy radio.
If you've ever had a noisy neighbor, you know the pain. In Mark's Montreal apartment, Claire's radio at 6 a.m. was louder than a rooster with a megaphone. Mark tried asking politely. He even wrote the landlord a registered letter, which the landlord treated like junk mail from a fake prince. No luck. Daniel, across the hall, wasn't thrilled either. Claire's early morning polka shook his cupboards like tumbleweeds in a dust storm. He grumbled to Mark one night, "If she plays that one more time, I'll rewire the whole building myself." Then one morning, silence. Claire's kitchen radio fizzled out mid-song, and the same thing happened the next day. She swore it was broken, but oddly, the living room radio worked just fine. That's when the gossip started. Another tenant claimed Daniel had been lugging some bulky electrical box into his apartment, muttering something about teaching people a lesson. Even Mark admitted Daniel had the know-how. He was always tinkering with circuits and soldering irons. But here's the kicker. Mark suddenly stopped showing up to class looking like a zombie. He looked rested, smug even, sipping coffee like a cowboy who just won a duel. So, who pulled the plug on Claire's noisy mornings? Daniel with his mysterious late-night gadget, or Mark, who finally seemed a little too happy about the sudden silence? What's your theory?
Everyone suspected Daniel with his late-night gadgets, but it was actually Mark. He didn't hack the wires at all. He just bought a cheap remote control outlet, the kind you can flip off from your bed. He let Claire think her kitchen radio was busted when really he was just pressing a button. That's why Mark suddenly looked well-rested. He'd solved his noise problem without lifting a soldering iron. Sometimes the smartest fix is the laziest one. Work smarter, not harder, right? Let's go and proceed to the next story. It's all about Rosie the dog and the love triangle.
What if the girl your ex left you for wasn't winning at all, but actually walked into a nightmare? A 25-year-old woman thought she had her future set. She and her fiancé had been together for 7 years, building a life, even raising a dog named Rosie. But then came the betrayal. He left her for the 21-year-old he'd met on TikTok. For months, she had suspicions. Every late-night text, every phone call, he brushed off with the excuse, "Don't worry, babe, she's just my best friend." And then, as if confirming everything, he ended their engagement and that same day posted online about how much he loved his new girl. Within weeks, he moved this younger girlfriend 6 states away into his father's house, parading her as though they'd been together forever. To outsiders, it looked like a fresh start, but inside, she was crumbling. The new girlfriend was already under heavy pressure. She couldn't scroll online without seeing comments about her boyfriend's betrayal. She couldn't ignore the way he still texted his ex, asking for dog updates, keeping ties he promised he'd cut. She noticed how he hid his phone, how his stories never lined up, how quick his temper flared when questioned. And worst of all, she realized she'd been uprooted, isolated in a stranger's home far away from her own friends and family. Instead of joy, she was left with anxiety, mistrust, and a constant knot in her stomach. Meanwhile, the ex-fiancée was moving on beautifully. Rosie stayed with her, playing with her roommate's dogs, loved and cared for every day. And as promised, she did send photos of Rosie to her ex, only every single one was of Rosie pooping in the yard. A petty but perfect reminder of what he truly left behind. So, do you think the new girlfriend will stick it out or finally realize she never won anything at all?
The younger girlfriend didn't win at all. Within months, she realized she was isolated, anxious, and stuck with a man who hadn't changed a bit. She eventually packed her bags and left, moving back to her family. Meanwhile, the ex-fiancé kept Rosie, built a happier life, and got the last laugh. The truth? The one who was betrayed ended up freer, stronger, and better off than either one of them. As we say in America, sometimes losing the guy means winning everything else. Let's go and proceed to the last story. It's all about the little boy and the diapers.
A little boy who was caught stealing diapers.
Not candy, not toys, just diapers. And when the police followed him home, what they found was heartbreaking. The first time the cashier noticed him, she thought it was a mistake. A boy, maybe 10 years old, thin and quiet, slipping a small pack of diapers into his backpack. She figured he was confused or maybe dared by friends. She'd let it slide. But then he came back. Same store, same aisle, same item. Diapers. Not once, not twice, 4 times. Every single time, diapers. He never looked around for candy, never even glanced at toys. He went straight for the baby section, grabbed what he needed, and tried to leave. At first, the cashier thought it was some kind of prank, but diapers aren't funny, and they're not cheap either. By the 4th time, she couldn't ignore it anymore. She called the police. When officers showed up, they expected to catch him red-handed. Maybe he was reselling them. Maybe it was part of a scam. Kids don't usually risk trouble for baby supplies. They followed him quietly as he left the store, clutching his backpack. The boy walked fast, head down, avoiding eye contact. He wasn't going to a friend's house or hangout spot. He was headed straight home. When they opened the door of his tiny apartment, what they found made everyone stop in their tracks. Why would a little boy steal diapers instead of toys?
When police followed the boy home, they didn't find a stash of stolen goods. They found a crying baby, his little sister. Their mom had left days earlier, and their dad was working double shifts just to keep the lights on. The boy wasn't stealing toys or candy, he was stealing diapers to take care of her. The cops didn't arrest him. Instead, they got social services involved, and for the first time, the kids got the help they needed. Sometimes the smallest heroes wear the tiniest sneakers. And that's the end of today's stories. Which twist shocked you the most? Drop your theory or reaction in the comments. I read them all. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow, because next week I'll be dropping another set of mysteries with even crazier endings.